This is RuggaMatrix International, the world's leading independent rugby podcast, quoted more than anyone else. It's no wonder that our major partner is Strike, Australia's leading provider of Bluetooth car kits, so you can stay safe in your car and avoid hefty fines. So go hands-free with Strike. Enter the code RuggaMatrix and you'll get 10% off. Go to strike.com.au to get your discount. RuggaMatrix also brought to you by mybean.com.au. We sell at roasters' prices. Let's get it on. Hello and welcome to RuggaMatrix International, episode 190. I'm your host, Jero Sen, and alongside me, the great Mark Cash Cow Pinky Cashman.
You got them all, Bronk, all the nicknames. But great to be here, great to be talking about some rugby. And I tell you what, we have got a welter of rugby to talk about.
Yeah, we've got a lot of guests. We went down to Waratahs HQ, a lot of Wallabies, a lot of Waratahs, a lot of experienced players to speak to. And first cab off the rank in this show called Deep South is about analysing what happened in all the test series in the Southern Hemisphere. And victories to Wales, New Zealand and Australia. But Casho, I think the series that really had the most worth for the competing teams was indeed the New Zealand and England series. I thought New Zealand got a lot out of it, and so did England, and I think they will probably take the most benefit from the southern trip down under.
I think England, Bronk, probably could feel a little bit aggrieved they didn't come away with a result in one of those test matches. But listen, 12 months out from a bit over 12 months out from a Rugby World Cup, I think it's given them a good marker about where they are at in this in the current sort of pecking order, as will Australia after that series against France. And obviously the Wallabies will get a further indication about where they are once the Rugby Championship kicks off against the mighty All Blacks in Sydney on August 16.
Yeah, that's right. August, they'll come together, so whatever momentum the Southern Hemisphere teams put together will be on hold for a couple of weeks. Incidentally, do you like a little shot here from the second or the first Lions test in Brisbane last year? And this was after they scored their first try and at the northern end, and you can see all the Lions supporters going crazy. This guy right here, not happy at all.
Great piece of photography, Bronk. Those were the days. RuggaMatrix on the road, I think it was, during that time. We had some great shows and some great experiences away from the grounds, as you remember.
I'll never forget when we shared a room in Brisbane. That will haunt me forever. But
never pretty sharing a room, is it? No, that's right.
All right, Casho. So let's start off with Australia. We'll get into the All Blacks and England as we go throughout the show. But, it was a pretty impressive effort by both Australia and New Zealand to win their games against their Northern Hemisphere foes. South Africa very lucky against Wales, getting a controversial penalty try at the end.
Well,
Steve Walsh involved.
Well, listen, love him as a referee, love him as a bloke. I think he does a great job. He lets the game flow, which is really good, and that's what we saw in that series between South Africa and Wales. And let's hope he plays a key role in the World Cup coming up next year. He's top bloke and a top referee in my books. But I think South Africa were pretty lucky. They play this coming weekend against Scotland, so it's going to be interesting how they front up for the Rugby Championship. But Heineke Meyer, very happy with where they're at the moment. They've had to navigate their way through certain issues with Stein and a couple of other guys opting out of the squad, reassessing their futures at international level. But all in all, I think South Africa they're turning over their talent and they're shaping well for the Rugby Championship and beyond.
Yeah, of course, in Scotland and Ireland doing the business against Argentina as well. So it's been a very busy program. Shout out to our old mate Eddie Jones as well, who was victorious. That's 10 straight wins for Japan, and they beat Six Nations power in Italy. So Eddie Jones on the sideline too. That was great to see. And you might remember only late last year he had a stroke, and there were real concerns about his well-being. But Eddie's back at it, and he's winning games, and that was a really good win against Italy at home.
Yeah, certainly was 26-23, Bronk, the final scoreline. I watched about the last half hour of it in quite detail, and the way they actually closed that game out was quite impressive, and the style that they're playing suits their cattle. And I think Eddie's been smart in the way he's coached, and the guys are getting it. And the good thing about it is a lot of the guys in decision making positions are actually native Japanese guys, so that's good to see. And some of the bigger Japanese guys are coming through, playing in the second row. They've got a very good back row, very good half back. Their 10 calls to shots sort of quite well, and they're just well disciplined, as you can imagine from a Eddie Jones coach side. But listen, you said Eddie was mellow on the sidelines. I think that's only a matter of time, Bronk, isn't it?
You can't keep a good man down, but it's good to see him doing well. So let's look at the French series against Australia. And the French were woeful in the first test. Australia flogged them in Brisbane. Then, of course, in the second test, it was pretty, let's just say a snore fest. It was 6-0 to Australia. And, we're not bagging the players here. We're just saying that it wasn't one of those great games. French side at last turned up to play, cash cow, and it was forced into penalty. So, yeah, it just was one of those great contests to watch, but it was a contest. Those things happen. It was good Australia actually won one of those games and didn't falter. Then in the third test, a day game at Allianz Stadium, 43,000, a record rugby crowd for that stadium. Turned out, and it absolutely pumped on the day. Still something I think that Australia has to work on in attack and maybe defence as well, because they did well against the French in defence, but maybe some concerns with the mauling defence, and also heading into the Rugby Championship they'll be sternly tested by the All Blacks. But it was a good result. We went down to Waratahs training just yesterday, and the man who's been playing in the wake of Stephen Moore's injury at hooker for Australia a lot of time is Tatafu Polota-Nau, and the great cash cow himself hit him up about taking on the French up front.
Tough, quite a contest up front against the French. What were your thoughts about their style of play, their scrummaging, and their work at the breakdown?
Oh, very tough. I mean, they've got a world-class back row there, pretty much all in Toulouse. But that saying, the French flair, I mean, it's a magnificent spectacle when you see it in person. So, yeah, in order to shut that down, you just had to follow them everywhere they go, because they're that unpredictable, but they're that great at offloading as well. It's just both a spectacle, but really, really daunting for us. So we had to shut it down early.
Scrummaging was a mental as well as a physical game right throughout the series. You guys had to really be on your game, and it was much about the top 6 inches in many ways, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the French are really renowned for their scrum, particularly if they have their starting or finishing props. They'll still do the job of trying to get through us. That's saying, yeah, we had to really mentally switch on, and I mean, really happy with the progress that the boys made throughout the Test series. But that's saying it'll be another challenge come the Rugby Championship.
Before each of the Wallabies Test matches, we saw the All Blacks take on England. Obviously, must have been impressed with what the All Blacks brought to the table, and certainly England.
Oh, it's definitely no surprise, but I mean, yeah, full credit to England by actually making a great spectacle of this great game. And it goes to show that, like, although the All Blacks are up, they're still never out of the game. I mean, with England coming back in the first 2 Test matches, it's just a great spectacle. So I think key for us is to shut them down early and hopefully finish the job.
Ewan's made the point, the Wallaby coach, that listen, there's a long way to go until we compete with the All Blacks. That's very much the case.
Yeah, I think obviously going through the Test series, it's getting a lot of confidence out of that. But that's saying it'll be another 7 weeks till we meet up again. So hopefully we can use the franchises to perfect our little individual performances. But come Rugby Championship time, it's more of a fact of really gelling together and continuing where we started off the great momentum.
And our thanks to Tatafu Polota-Nau. Always great to speak to the great man, and a big fan of RuggaMatrix is Tatafu. And, you know, he knows more than anyone else how hard the French are up front, and they pride themselves on their scrummaging. But they needed more than their scrummaging to win this series.
Yeah, it was all about the breakdown. The French, when they go well at the breakdown, like they did in Melbourne, they'll be very, very competitive. The Melbourne game, as we mentioned earlier, was a bit of a snore fest, but sometimes rugby, with all its intricacies, is like that. But listen, we saw some real great talent there from the Wallabies on show. Great to see Will Skelton get a run. I think I was just surprised it took Ewan until the third test to actually get him on there. Good to see he's got a start. And if anybody was watching the television, just have a look at Will during that national anthem. Listen, he had a smile as big as the Harbour Bridge. And listen, from what I hear, and I've got some insiders close to the Waratah camp, his hardest job of the week wasn't playing. His hardest job was getting all his family tickets for the game.
How many?
Well, I think it's 30 plus, mate, so I think he'd leave it as well.
Oh dear. Well, he was terrific and great to see him play. Ewan always used to say to me, a good big man will be a good little man any day. Well, I don't actually agree with that, because I can't see a big man bending down and tackling a really tiny fella. However, he is a great big man, and he performed well, and he's got wonderful ball playing skills. The wonderful timing and offload he gave to Israel Folau for his second half try was just absolutely brilliant. So there's more to Will Skelton than his massive size. So I say that about Mark Cashman as well. So terrific to see.
We shouldn't go past this test, though, Bronk, that third test, without mentioning Wycliffe Parlow. What an absolutely superb performance! Listen, he took the ball forward. He took the he took the heat out of the French pack, which I think early on were quite up for that game. But listen, Cliffy at his best was out there on Saturday, and that's great to see.
He looks physically a little trimmer too. Like he's not at that massive weight that we used to see when he steamrolled guys. He's actually quite athletic. And I think as you get older, it's better to trim down a little bit, because it's harder to carry that weight and be athletic. So he was terrific. Michael Hooper, I've got to say, continues to amaze me. He keeps getting thrown these leadership roles by accident, and he delivers each time, because he doesn't care that he's been lumped with the captaincy. He just gets on with the job.
It is quite interesting, and he seems like a natural. And Michael Checker, I do know for a fact, went very close to making him Waratah's captain at the start of last season, and obviously thought he'd finesse on that one a little bit, and went with Dave Dennis, and look how well that's sort of worked out. But any good captain, as we know, Bronk, needs a number of leaders throughout a rugby team, and that's what Ewan's got at this particular time.
Yeah, Dave Dennis is an exceptional leader, and he showed that when he cut his leg almost in half against the Chiefs a few weeks ago and played on and scored that winning try. So he's a great leader, and the boy from Penrith doing good. So the Waratahs welcome back when they play the Brumbies this week in the old grudge match at ANZ Stadium. Ben Robinson, who's very close to becoming one of the all-time capped Waratahs. He won't play enough games to overhaul Phil Wall this year, but I think he's going past Al Baxter this week, or equaling Al Baxter this week. I can't remember the stats, but I think that's great news. He missed the Test series, Casho, and he also spoke to Mark Cashman yesterday, not only about where he is and his Test future, but what he thought of the Test series against the French.
First Test series, Ben, you've watched on for a stretch. What were your thoughts about the Wallabies in France?
You know what? It's as much as I would love to be now. That was great to see. I think, to beat the French 3-0. To have the last Test here in Sydney, and the boys, especially the New South Wales boys, doing so well. I can't help but like what's happening out there.
Your ambitions is obviously to still play Test football and maybe even knock off that World Cup that's eluded you.
Yeah, for sure. I think I definitely still have plenty of passion and plenty of drive to go out and play Test footy. I think it starts this week, big game against the Brumbies. So I need to put in a good performance there and keep continually improving my own game.
Tell us about what you thought of the way the French scrummaged and the way the Wallabies scrummaged.
Yeah, look, it was really interesting to see. Losing Nicholas Mass early in that first game. I think he got dropped for that second game as well, and I thought the players that came on played really well. The front rowers, I think, it was back and forth here on Saturday night. A few penalties either way, but that's a French. Are very I suppose they pride themselves on their scrummaging. They scrummage really well, and they get a lot of momentum out of it.
Wallabies seemed to develop their scrum as the series sort of went along. They were obviously coping a lot better with the mental game that the French bring along with their physicality at scrum time.
Yeah, I think you just can't go there and expecting nice, straight, easy, square scrums. I think with the French, you got to expect a bit of wheeling, a bit of pulling, a bit of a bit of tactics involved, which they did early on. So I think the Wallabies handled it very well.
Couple of weeks off for you during that time. Obviously played a bit of club footy, but fresh and ready to go. 3 games to the semis.
Yeah, very fresh. It was good to play for Easter on the weekend. A good solid 55, 60 I think minutes there as well. But the first few weeks, I had the first week off. The second and third week we trained pretty hard here. There was no letting off from Czech from us. Saturday
night up against the Brumbies side that'll be missing Stephen Moore, a good mate of yours. You must be sad that his captaincy didn't last longer than a couple of minutes.
Yeah, look, I think Stephen, we pretty disappointed about having that injury. I think he's a well-deserved captain, very consistent player for many years now. I think he's a big loss, for the Wallabies and for the Brumbies. I think the Brumbies take a lot of passion, I suppose, and a lot of energy from his game. So he's a big loss. But you look at their front row. If it's Scotty's there and Benny's there, they're a world-class front row.
The Waratahs finished nicely in their last game against the Chiefs. Can they pick it up where they left it off?
Yeah, we're hoping so. That Chiefs game I thought was a very impressive game. It was probably one of the great Waratah wins that I've been involved in. I think we went over there expecting a really hard game, which we got. And for me, that scoreline was a bit of a shock for me.
Did you see much growth in your teammates during Wallaby time?
Yeah, there's a particular big bloke that I thought grew pretty well, especially in that last game. I think for him to play his first test, but Willie Sheldon was and do so well was phenomenal. I think it's a sign of his talent. I still think he's got plenty of growth to go. Whether it's his height or his game, he's still got plenty to go.
You must have had a tear in your eye when he scored that try.
Probably a tear for the blokes trying to tackle him. I think he definitely had that tingle in his eye that he wanted to get across the line, and I think he might have even knocked off Du Sautois there as well. So it was good for him to score that try, and I think a lot of people saw the try in the setup or the offload to Izzy, but a lot of work he does at the breakdown and just attracting plays, means a lot to, for us at the Waratahs, and you saw it on the weekend with the Wallabies.
So Ben Robinson with Mark Cashman, keen to talk about his club as well, Eastwood. That's important to him. So they haven't been sitting around sucking their thumbs. He mentioned that Checker had been flogging them in the meantime. So they are still working hard. And it should be a pretty good game against the Brumbies this week. I think hopefully the teams will come in and it won't be one of those interstate derbies with the Brumbies. We'll see the boys turn it on.
Brumbies, of course, Bronk hit by a number of injuries in the hooker area. Stephen Moore, of course, who crocked himself during the French series, and Josh Manray and also Saliva are out injured. Bongo, as Josh is known.
Good fella too.
Good fella.
Very reliable hooker.
Yeah, very reliable hooker, but he strained a hamstring at the weekend, so he's having scans as we speak. And Luke Holmes is sort of headed down there for cover, so Luke might find himself coming into the squad and starting against his club from last year, the Waratahs. So very interesting scenario. But listen, the whips are on to finish up the conference well, and I think the Tars might, and particularly that man, the Cat, might sniff a bit of blood in the water there in the front row. So we'll see how they go. But listen, plenty of depth there, and well coached, obviously, there by Lord Laurie.
Yeah, I think so. I think, Mark, that you'll find the Cat, Ben Robinson, will come out firing and have a monster game as loose head for the Waratahs. And, it's going to be an interesting game as well, because another one who was sitting on the sideline, and not because of form, but basically because of a decision he made. He's going to play with Leinster after this season. He still wants to play for the Wallabies, and this is this issue again, Casho, brushing Australian players who aren't playing, who are not playing in Super Rugby for the sake of keeping the competition strong in Australia. Is going to be tested more and more, isn't it? As players of good age, good athleticism, and test quality are leaving our shores.
It's interesting this point. I emceed a lunch up at Foster on the Mid-North Coast of New South Wales for the Mid-North Coast Rugby Union on Friday. We had Tony Dempsey, the former boss of Rupa there, and we had our opinions were at both ends of the spectrum there. He's a fan of keeping wallabies in Australia at any cost, and if you do go overseas, that's a thing you've got to give up. Whereas I'm of the opinion that guys like Kane Douglas, once he settles in there at Leinster, also Salisi Murphy, doing so well in the English conditions there at Northampton, should be considered for major Test matches like a World Cup campaign.
Absolutely. Imagine if some of the other countries invoked that rule and it was, I guess, set in stone. I mean, you wouldn't have any players.
No, and obviously with
South Africa.
Well, the new TV deal in France is a real threat to Southern Hemisphere rugby. The amount of money that's coming through, and money does talk, Bronk, as you know.
It does, but there's not a space for everyone. And the French are a bit concerned that they've gone too far the other way, too many foreign players. So it's hurting their national team. I really think that, in talking to guys like Morgan Turanui, etc., on this show, that they may pull it back, actually, rather than just opening the floodgates, because they need to produce more players. They've got a lot of talent in France, and they need to make sure that, and they do sink deep into their rugby culture with first division, second division. So there's a lot of rugby there, and the temptation of buying a championship and having a lot of big players is there. I mean, look at Toulon. I mean, look at the names from around the world. But is that good for French rugby? That's the question.
Well, the national team coach Philippe Saint-André set down a marker late last week, didn't he, about this matter, about too many foreigners in the top 14, and really you can sympathise with him. Look at Toulon, who won the Heineken Cup, and also the top 14. They had 5 South Africans there, I think, didn't they, Bronk? And a number of Aussies, and then there's some of the Pacific Island boys. So it's not a hugely French-centric sort of Toulon side. But anyway, listen, you can't argue with the formula they've come up with down there.
No, they can't. But I can see something happening there in terms of tightening things up, and if that's the case, then a nice spread of players playing in Europe from Australia, from New Zealand, and the other way around, having players playing here, I think would be really good for the World Game. So we're not talking about losing all our players. No way, because the competitions don't exactly marry up. And that's what we've got to take into account, although the European season is very long. All right, so speaking of the European season, we talked about Kane Douglas. He was also at the Waratahs training session yesterday, and Mark Cashman spoke to him and also about his impending move to Ireland.
Kane, from Wallaby front, first time you've looked on from the Test series. What were your thoughts about how they navigated the French?
No, it was good to watch, and especially the Tars boys, they really ripped in, and it was good to see Willie get a crack on the weekend, and he's awesome to watch, big Willie Skelton. It was different. I've been in there the last couple of years, but it was good to sit back and watch. I didn't get to any of the games like at the game, but I rushed off after my club rugby game on the weekend, rushed upstairs to watch the game at the Southern Districts Rugby Club, and it was good to see him in fine form and scoring tries.
Could you see some growth from the team over the 3 Test matches?
Yeah, definitely. There was the second game. Obviously, the French sort of went a bit harder at them, it wasn't much scoring out there, but no, it's good to see they win 3 games in a row, and it was it's good from the spectators, and I'm sure all the fans loved it as well.
You're obviously comfortable with your decision to head to Leicester, but there must have been a few twinges of, Jesus, I wish I was out there.
Oh yeah, I suppose, but yeah, no, I'm very comfortable with my decision. But yeah, it's you always wish you were out there, and yeah, I don't know whether this will whether there'll be any more games for me this year with the Wallabies. But yeah, if that opportunity arises, I'd take it with both hands. But yeah, yeah, it's good to see them winning.
A bit of unfinished business with the Tars, 3 games, and then hopefully a successful final series, and a game where you guys probably didn't play well in the first round against the Brumbies coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, it's a massive game this weekend, and 3 games to go. So it'd be good to finish top of the conference and sitting in that second or first position on the whole ladder would be awesome. Get a home semi and that. So yeah, we've got a big few games coming up. This week's going to be massive out at ANZ, and yeah, hopefully we can beat the Brumbies.
Not much footy was played, and probably a bit ill-tempered down in Canberra during that first game. Obviously, it's unfinished business.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we obviously didn't play as good as we could down there, and yeah, I think we've got better as a footy team since then. So hopefully that last game against the Chiefs, and then these the Wallaby boys going really well this last few weeks, especially the Waratahs contingent. Hopefully they can come back and add a bit of spice, and they've learned something from them tests, and yeah, hopefully we can get out there and have a good crack this weekend.
So there he is, Kane Douglas, and a terrific fellow too. We wish him all the best. And I think, Casho, you might have said Leicester in that interview, but I don't know if you had a drink early in the morning.
Oh, is that right? Jeez,
Yeah.
you picked me up on that, Bronk.
Yeah, no, I'm very quick. Very
But,
quick.
no, it's great to see Kane get a chance over there. I think he's been in the Australian system, I think, for 8 years, and yeah, you know, there is that same old sort of feel about things, and you know, some of the things he unfortunately lost his mum late last year, which he was very close
sad.
to, and.
Yeah.
I think he's just looking for a bit of adventure, a bit of change of scene. But he's definitely one to for the national team selectors to track how their progress is going. And listen, he's going to be back because he's. I'd imagine there's not too many surfing spots in and around the Dublin area, but. Yeah, listen, he'll be back, and I think he'll be a better player for it. Not that he's going along pretty handy at the moment, though, for the Waratahs.
The only surfing will be on the internet in Dublin.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe. If he goes to D4, we know all about D4. That's where Les Kiss is. I did contact Les Kiss for the edification of our Ireland listeners, and he was in Tucuman. And the communications were a bit dusty, so we'll check in with Les and he'll tell us all about the Argentinian tour if he's made it back in one piece. And having been there before with him in 2004, it is a wonderful place to tour.
I'm sure Bronk, if he's in Tucuman, he'll be having the meat sweats as we speak.
and watching the soccer or the Football World Cup in Brazil, I'd really love to see Argentina next time around get the World Cup because they certainly deserve it. They can easily get the venue sorted, I'm sure about that, but it was a wonderful place and a great rugby culture, so let's bring it on for Argentina. So there's our chats with the Waratahs / Wallabies and Super Rugby to resume this week, and that big battle between the Brumbies and the Waratahs, crucial for the conference. You know, it's so tight at the top of the ladder in the Australian Conference, and similarly in South Africa and New Zealand. My money's on the Crusaders. I just think they're hitting that unstoppable freight train form, Casho, and you know it's a bit of a shame the Waratahs won't meet the Crusaders in the regular home and away season.
Well, that may well help their chances, Bronk. I think you know sides sort each other out quite quickly. So. Listen, if it's a Waratahs Crusaders final or maybe Waratahs Sharks sort of final, I think I think they'll go pretty close to doing the business, and I think a bit of the unknown factors obviously being held back by the coaching staff there at New South Wales. So we'll see how it pans out. But Tars have 3 games to finish off the season. It's Brumbies, Highlanders, and then up to Brisbane against the Reds. So a pretty good way to finish, and I think they'll be in pretty good form. A lot of guys would have gained from the experience of playing Test rugby in the June period.
Yeah, all right, Casho. Well, that's covering off the internationals around the world. There are a few other matches around the world, but I think they're the main games for us to take care of. So, Cash Cow, we're going to move on to something that you're pretty close to. You've been helping out with the media for the North Harbour Rays in the NRC, the National Rugby Championship. That will come into play a bit later this year. And that is the, third tier rugby competition that's been introduced to address Australian rugby depth. And the North Harbour Rays, let's have a look at some vision on screen now. And this is the, I call it the season launch. It was really a partnership launch for the Rays. Talk us through it.
Yeah, Bronk, it was quite interesting there. Macquarie University have come on board as the North Harbour Rays principal partner. So a great partner to have. They're very proactive, and the Rays are going to be training and using a lot of their gymnasium and aquatic facilities out there at on the university campus, which is in the northwest of Sydney. So, listen, a great partner, and the Rays are. I think probably 6 or 8 weeks away from the start of the season. The boys start getting through some of the detail with the head coach Jeff Townsend in coming weeks. So they'll come together once a week in coming weeks, and things will crank up once the Shute Shield clubs involved in the venture, which is Northern Suburbs, Gordon, Manly, and Warringah get knocked out of the final series. But let's hope the teams in contention there, Manly and Warringah. Manly, of course, are undefeated Broncos, in the Shute Shield. Go deep into the finals. But listen, it's going to be interesting competition. 9 teams. The comp's going to go over about 10 or 12 weeks, so it's going to add to the depth, just like the ITM Cup and the Currie Cup in South Africa does to rugby in this country.
And have a look at this. The great Sean Maloney. Look at those hands. He dropped the microphone but caught it. He should be still playing.
He certainly should. Listen, he's trimmed down a lot in recent times. I think it's got something to do with having his torso on television. And listen, the skills are there. They'll never leave him.
Well done, Stretchy Maloney, doing a good job at Fox Sports and helping to launch the partnership for the NRC. So it's all happening. What do you got there, mate? What have you brought into the RuggaMatrix studio?
Well, this is
very bright. Why is it red?
Well, this is one of the university colours, and we thought for the partnership launch that we'd get all our coaches in these things, but there's the Macquarie University branding, and there's
we'll hold it up in front of your head, mate, so we can see it.
And there's the North Harbour Rays logo, which harks back to the
model after you. You look just like twins.
Well, it's a bit like that, isn't it? But that one doesn't have a beard at the moment, but. It's modelled after the Central Coast Rays, which won the Australian Rugby Championship, on which the National Rugby Championship has been pretty much modelled. So listen, we're a young club, we're a young franchise, but we have a history of winning, so that's great.
All right, very good. Do you fit into that? Is that your size?
One size fits all, Bronk. It's very stretchy, if you know what I mean.
All right, so yeah, that was good. And the funny thing about that launch is that there was a very common theme. They want to give it to Sydney University and the Sydney Stars. So let's have a listen to some of them, Cash Gow. So first off, Mark Cashman spoke to the chairman of the North Harbour Rays. That's Gary Flowers, the former AAU boss, now running the show for the Rays. Here's Gary Flowers with Mark Cashman.
Absolutely, a great day to launch not just our sponsorship but our partnership with Macquarie University. They're a great partner. We're all very excited about the relationship and looking forward now to the footy starting in a few weeks.
Starting up a rugby team from scratch, it's not easy. A lot of work's gone in the background at this stage.
Yeah, a lot of work has definitely gone in. I've got to pay tribute to the 4 clubs involved. Great leadership to firstly commit to this sort of venture, and then great leadership to commit the resources and funding they have to getting it up and running. And then, of course, we've taken it on from them with a great board and committee and a great set of people working with us. And we're very excited about getting into the season now. But a lot of work, but we're very happy with where we are at the moment.
Rays have a bit of history in this style of competition. They won the Arc in 2007. That's something to live up to, and it's a bit of history to draw on.
Absolutely, 1 out of 1's a pretty good start for us. We're certainly going into this season very confident. We've got a very good bunch of players. I mean, obviously, Manly have performed very well on the Shoot Shield, so Warringah, and obviously the core of those teams will be available to us, but also with a few of the Super 15 guys coming back. So we're very happy about our player pool.
Yeah, nice words from Gary. Gary, of course, was the CEO of the ARU when the ARC went round in 2007. So Gary's got a bit of skin in the game. So it's good to see him upbeat and so positive about this new venture. And I'll tell you what, he runs a pretty slick meeting. Let me tell you.
Yeah, is a full-on professional?
Well, pretty much so.
Given some of the rugby meetings I've been in the past, they can be debatable. But it's good to see that you've got a sharp operator there.
Yeah, and you obviously need that. Volunteers and people getting an opportunity to aim up in the next level up is sort of pretty important. So there's the structure there for this franchise to do very well. But as you mentioned, leading into what Gary had to say, a lot of interest in that game against the Sydney Stars. So. With Macquarie Uni taking on Sydney University, it's got that varsity feel to it, hasn't it? Cambridge, Oxford game and all that sort of stuff. So, looking forward to the season, Brock. It's a 100-metre sprint, but it should be fun.
Should be. Well, let's hear from the coach, Jeff Townsend, speaking to Mark Cashman.
We're trying to get a little bit of detail into the players over the next 6 weeks with Wednesday sessions where we just get a little bit of our content and in place. But if Manly and Warringah have deep runs into the playoffs, which we hope they do, we might not see the guys until about a week before the championship start.
What style of rugby can we expect to see from the Rays?
We'd like to think we're going to play an attractive, expansive type game, but obviously when the new laws come into place, we'll look at our plans from there and act accordingly. But yeah, when you look at the initial development squad, the Manly and the Warringah take a fair portion of the team. Like Manly's forward pack, obviously most of those boys are involved, and the Warringah backline, you find most of those boys are involved with the group as well. So we've got some combinations there which we can rely on, but obviously the boys from Gordon and North are going to put their hands up as well.
Have marked a date in the diary, and that's the game against the Sydney Stars. It's the varsity game, Macquarie University versus Sydney University. So I think it's the start of a grand tradition.
Well, let's hope so. Obviously the people here at Macquarie University are very, very focused on that particular game, and as a team we'd like to have a crack at those boys, and all the players know each other, and they're probably all good mates, but on the field it's going to be a hell of a contest.
So Jeff Townsend with the job. Casho, he was a late appointment.
Yeah, Phil Blake picked up a very good job with the Leicester Tigers, and obviously we weren't going to stand in Phil's way. It's a great opportunity for him to further himself in a totally professional environment and with one of the great clubs of Europe. So Jeff has stood up to the mark. Obviously. An assistant coach to John Mitchell at the Western Force some years ago, so got the runs on the board and doing a good job of moulding a very young Gordon side, a Gordon side that's obviously in a rebuilding phase. So he's looking forward to getting his hands on a bit of extra talent and playing some good rugby.
Absolutely, Casho. Well, let's hear from one of the players, scrum half with the Waratah squad as well, Matt Lucas.
Every chance you get to sort of play more footy, and then, in this case, it's obviously it's going to be of a high standard. There's a bit of a gap between Super Rugby and Club Rugby, and this is going to be that next level from Club Rugby. So, 8 games or whatever it is, you're going to really cherish it and take it. Yeah.
You're looking forward to working with some of the guys from the other clubs, guys like guys from Warringah, North and Gordon.
Yeah, well, absolutely. You get the opportunity to pick out, the best from all the clubs and combine them. You know, that's going to be great fun. You know, I've got good mates. You know, I live with Cam Crawford, who's from North, and I think he's going to be involved. You know, to sort of handpick a couple of the best guys from each club and to play with them in one side, you know, you look forward to that.
There must be a bit of banter sort of going on in the extended sort of Waratahs squad at the moment. Once you know, things are starting to heat up with the NRC. We'll have the draw announced pretty soon. So tell us about some of that banter. You must be giving it to those Sydney Uni blokes, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I said earlier they're calling themselves the Sydney Stars, so you know they've already got a bit of a target on them. But no, it's all in good fun. You know, a lot of the boys are starting to figure out who. You know, there was a bit of, you know, you're in the dark a bit there earlier. But everyone's starting to figure out who they're able to play for and that sort of thing. So yeah, the band is increasing, and it's good because you know your best mates with them in at Tars, but it's another chance to go out and go to battle with them, go to battle against them. So.
Yes, Bronk, as you see, everyone's looking forward to that game against the Sydney Stars, and a bit of banter at Waratahs training by the sound of things between all the guys. So listen, that's great to see.
Now, who's this other fellow, the big Scottish prop that's playing for Gordon?
That's a guy called Nick Fraser. Came out here from Edinburgh through one of the connections with the Gordon coach, but could well be playing in the NRC. And good luck to him.
Well, let's hear from him, Casho. Nick Fraser, who's playing with the mighty Highlanders and may get a job for the North Harbour Rays in the NRC. Nick Fraser from Scotland.
Out here from Scotland for a couple of seasons. Tell us about the journey.
Yeah, it's been good. Like it happened pretty quick. Like I was back home in Scotland and fancied coming over to Australia to play. And one of our coaches at Gordon's from Scotland, so I just got in touch with him. And yeah, I've been here since January.
What are your thoughts about the quality of the Shute Shield? And you obviously must be looking forward to the step up in quality in the National Rugby Championship.
Yeah, definitely. The Shute Shield's good league, a lot of good players. Like it's really fast, really physical. Like there's back home in Scotland, it's good league there as well, and there'll be plenty of boys over there that could do well over here. So yeah, really looking forward to it, and hopefully the Rays will go well as well.
Yeah, Bronk. Listen, I said to Nick after the interview, don't be afraid. You're the one with the accent. It's not us. So, but a good fella.
Yeah. So it's a good mix of guys there. And it was great to see a bit of excitement about the National Rugby Championship, and it's finally starting to get something tangible about it now, you know, with teams signing up sponsors and those sorts of things, and looking forward to how the draw comes out and all that. When's the draw, by the way?
Well, the draw will be out in coming weeks. I think the Rays have their first home game on September 4. So,
right.
Yeah, so that's
and your home ground is...
It's going to be Brookvale Oval, so
right.
Yeah, it's the home of the NRL team, the Manly Sea Eagles. So you know,
another reason for them to upgrade it.
Yes, that's exactly right, and that's why they've got us on board. But looking forward to working with everyone in and around the ground and Warringah Council. So great stuff, and let's hope we pack it out a bit.
All right, hope so. Casho, thank you very much for coming in and bringing your shirt and all that sort of stuff. Thanks to the wonderful people who attended the Lions series last year and were happy for me to photograph them. And there's heaps more of those that have been published all over the place and including in French magazines. So just got to get them to pay me now. So that's are they still paying francs or euros these days?
Francs, I'm not sure about francs, but it might be euros, I think. But listen, Bron, while we're looking at the great photo behind us, let's do a shout out for this man here, and if he contacts us, you'll send him a digital copy of the photo.
Yeah, absolutely. Look out. We might do that every week. There's some great crowd shots from that series. What a wonderful series and concept. It was so great to be part of. Casho, thanks for coming in, mate. Good to see you. Well done with all the chats this week. Let's hope that Super Rugby keeps bubbling along after the Southern Test series. And I thought the All Blacks really warmed up nicely. Good to see Australia get 7 wins in a row. There's a bit of optimism about the side. And please, AAU, try and get a day game, at least 1 or 2 a year. I think absolute priority. I can guarantee you now that that game would not have had the same coverage in the general media if it was a night game. 100% positive of that. I know because I work in the media, and it just wouldn't have had the same colour and movement with the daylight hours, and the crowd wouldn't have been as big. Simple as that. It's just more family friendly. I know my wife and my eldest daughter went to the game, had a great time, Casho, and it's just, rugby should be played in the daytime. We know television pays the bills to a certain extent. However, there's got to be some give and take, and you've got to be able to produce a nice product like that during the daytime, because it is really family friendly.
Well, let's talk about a Bledisloe Cup afternoon game. Listen, I think Bledisloe Cup at night out at Homebush might pull 60-odd thousand. I think with an afternoon kick-off, even if it would be friendly to the New Zealand kick-off times. Maybe if they could adjust things over there, you've got your block of rugby, and we get 80-odd thousand out there. I think it'd be fantastic.
Well, the Kiwis will be playing here, so it's not an issue, really, is it?
Just
right. Get on with it.
They'd probably prefer it at 4 or 4:30 or 5:30 or something along those lines. That's what is it? Peak time in New Zealand, isn't it?
Absolutely. So it was just a different vibe in the city on that day, and it was something we so rarely see with a high quality Test match, and that was just wonderful to see. So let's have more of it. Australian rugby, and we will see big crowds coming out to see the Wallabies. So 7 straight. Will they get 8? It's going to be a test when we hit to August and the Rugby Championship. It's going to be tough for the Wallabies. If they can, that'll be fantastic. And Neil McKenzie would have completed one of his first missions, which is to beat the All Blacks and win back the Bledisloe. It would be a wonderful thing. So the timing's pretty good if they can keep doing it ahead of the World Cup. But look out, England. I think they are going to be a force to be reckoned with when it comes to the World Cup on their home soil. So we have to be on our guard, and as will every other nation taking on England at the World Cup in 2015. Casho, thanks for coming in. We'll speak to you soon.
Always a pleasure, Bron.
Don't forget, Cash Cow running his own media enterprise now. Cash Cow Media Solutions. You can find them. Where can you find them?
On Twitter, on
Twitter.
Facebook,
yeah.
All sorts of places. So, just contact us through here. So.
Or you can get Cash Cow through here. Now, don't forget, those who are production-minded and interested in production full stop, whether you want to be an amateur podcaster or work in the professional industry like television or radio, I have now launched a new YouTube-only channel, and that is the RuggaMatrix's parent company, RuggaMatrix, and the RuggaMatrix production channel. And it's all about giving away the 20-odd years, 25 years experience I've had in the media industry, and that includes photography, video, editing, you name it, sound, all sorts of things, lighting, scripting. We'll be doing it all on this show, and it's about giving you a chance to, at a budget, become more professional in what you do in producing content for the web, because I believe there should be more of it, and happy to give that advice away. We'll also be introducing lots of other professionals from the industry, lighting cameramen, specialists in technical parts of the business, from transmitting, codecs, you name it. It can get a bit dorky and geeky, but it'll certainly help you out. The first episode is up now, and it's all about changing your old hard drive from a spinning slow disk to a brand new solid state drive. And I can tell you that it actually works a treat, and improved the timing and workflow for RuggaMatrix actually by changing it on our little MacBook Pro. So check it out. There'll be a link actually from RuggaMatrix to it. So it's RuggaMatrix production channel on YouTube. So Casho, no doubt you'll be tuning in for me.
Well, I think I'm going to play a role at some stage, Bronco. I'll be your average man on the street Luddite, won't I?
Yes, yeah. Well,
just asking the silly questions that people need to have answered.
Well, instead of ringing me now, you can actually just go to the website. So there's another motivation. But all the guys at work at Channel 7 are keen to see it as well and take part. And so we'll have some of the stars from mainstream media helping me out on the program as well. So a final little plug there in the end. So don't forget also Alex Goff has started his own blog, but still pumping out RuggaMatrix America. So make sure you check that out. And he's doing a great job with Bruce McLean and the team over in the US, based in Seattle. So on both sides of the continent over there. All right, hope you're enjoying your Test rugby. Now it's time to get back to Super Rugby in the Southern Hemisphere as we drive towards the finals and then to the Rugby Championship. Can't wait for that. Until then, we'll see you next week.